Hey, everybody, welcome back to the End of Mind podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin, and I'm super excited to introduce you all to Julie. Thank you so much for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you all. My name is Julie Radico. I am a doctor of psychology. I also am a coach for professional women, an author, and a speaker. My mission is to demystify complicated psychological and coaching topics. So I love to give talks, workshops, trainings to help take all that jargon that I learned in graduate school for, a decade and make it into a digestible, useful, helpful format for most people.
It's beautiful. Your approach reminds me a lot of Jay Shetty. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He has a pretty spectacular podcast, and he was actually a monk, and he came back, and basically, just like you said, the jargon that you learn in school can sometimes be so robust, and through his monk teachings it was very similar, and that is now what he does through his podcasting and his coaching is he applies those topics like boiled down, for the
Yeah,
everyday person.
love it. That's a fantastic recommendation. I will check him out.
Yes, I think you would really enjoy him, especially with what you do. He has a great outlook. But anyway, I would love to learn more about your book and, how you specifically help women that you coach. A lot of our listeners are ladies that are professionals or looking to, develop their career more so. And that's why they normally find our show.
Yeah. So I heard two questions there, so I'll take them one at a time. And the first thing I brought a copy to hold up because I just find that it's easier if you're like a visual perception kind of person. I know some people might just be listening to the podcast, but it's called You Will Get Through This. It's a mental health toolkit. I co-authored it with two amazing women who are also mental health clinicians. And what we did was we took 22 common mental health, physical health, social health topics like loneliness, depression, panic attacks, ADHD, grief and loss, chronic pain. We took those topics, and each chapter is no more than 10 pages where we distilled what is that issue? What are the evidence-based, so research to like topic treatment. Sorry, y'all. What are the evidence-based, researched treatments for those topics? And then what are some like doable, helpful strategies that you can apply at home? So kind of like adding techniques to your toolkit to take care of yourself if you're dealing with that issue. Also, some of the common roadblocks. And then my favorite part of every chapter is we have a section of how to talk to a loved one if you're dealing with that issue or if they're dealing with that issue. So, say you know somebody in your life who's dealing with grief. How might you actually help them rather than putting the pressure back on them to tell you how to help them? Because sometimes we go, oh, just let me know how to help you. I'm here. Like, let me know what you need. Ooh, so well intentioned. And that person is overloaded in their emotions. They don't want you to add more mental load to be like, oh, okay, well, now I'm going to think about Caitlin being very kind to me and wanting to support me, but I have to now figure out how to let her help me. Ugh, y'all. So we have like these, I love these sections. And then we also have some resources and a case example. So you might be able to like apply what we have like demonstrated in the chapters. The other thing that you asked, it was about coaching, and I'm happy to talk a whole bunch about this. I think that women are faced with extra challenges in the fact that we live in a society that just has bias baked in. So we can go into the jargon. There's things called like second generation bias. You may have heard of things like the glass ceiling. Well, there's also the glass cliff. And the glass cliff is where companies will hire a woman to come in when the company's in crisis. Like, oh, look at our new CEO, Julie. She's amazing. She's going to fix the company, and then we're going to push her off the cliff. Like, oh, she got us through that tough time. Thanks for getting us back on our legs. We don't really need you anymore. We're going to switch to somebody else. Like, there are all these traps that don't, fair enough, don't always just apply to women. So it's not that I'm not supportive of all identities. I truly am. I resonate a lot with the fact that women have to sometimes works extra hard and struggle more facing these biases and these microaggressions. And even just if we think about our intersectional identities. So I'm a white woman. I can empathize, but not fully stand in the shoes of and want to make space for and support people who might identify as any other racial or ethnic identity other than my own. And so I am mindful that we all still just add layers on that. Like you might be somebody who, based on your gender identity, your physical abilities, your socioeconomic class, like all these, Kimberly Crenshaw in the late 80s early 90s came up with the idea of intersectional identities. And that I think is such an important part of how I think about and support women in the coaching that I do to help them recognize that they're more than enough. They can stand in their strength, they can recognize their values, and they can show up in ways that they can recognize the biases, but they don't have to be like crushed or stopped in their tracks by those biases. Like, how do you navigate them? How do you give yourself reassurance if you feel like you're being gaslit? Like, just helping women take up space.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. I really love how your book coincides with your coaching, at least from my perspective. A lot of guests that we've had on the podcast, one of my coaches, she's actually a chronic illness coach, and she tends to work with women majority of the time because we, most of the time, in my experience, have like, internalized some sort of trauma. And
Mhm.
mine actually started to manifest through high blood pressure when I first started my business. And I realized it was because of how much pressure I was putting on myself to
Mhm.
perform. So I think that they go really well hand in hand with the topics. And like, as someone that grieved even my father earlier on in my life, how that showed up, professionally in my career, especially in my business, and how I was, traumatized and basically pushing away business at times without even knowing it,
Mhm.
through being so active. So I really appreciate the topics within your book and how you support women and possibly how they tie together. Do you tend to have your clients also read your book if that resonates with them when working with you?
Yeah, it's not a mandate that you need to read my book. I do find that I recommend it often, and I caveat because there's this part of like being a psychologist. So I'm a bleeding heart. Like as a psychologist, as a coach, like we're trained to, you know, empathize and listen and take care of people, and I very much uh, lean into that space more easily than into the business space where when I talk about the book and to your question, I right away always say, and it's also in most local libraries around the country because the heart of why we wrote this book is for people to have access to it and to get benefit from it because it's a mental health toolkit. So it is I still may need to see a therapist. I still need to check in with my primary care clinician. I still might need to see this other specialist, work with a coach, all these things. But this is a place to help get you started. This is a place to recenter you if you're feeling like, oh, I'm having a rough day with my grief. I'm feeling extra lonely today. We have a chapter on loneliness. Like it's very small, concise, helpful information to go, okay, remind me again, what's a strategy I might use to help when I'm in like this mode? And you can open it, read for a minute, and like walk away with something tangible that can help you. So whereas it's not something that I'm not great at the like promotion part, but I very much genuinely think that it's a great tool and so wouldn't hesitate if a client was like, hey, I saw you wrote this book. Can you tell me about it? I'd be like, yeah. And it's in the library, y'all, because listeners, it's in the library. Like, that was one of the things. We're very much library nerds, all three of all of us as authors. And once we knew that it was going to be in libraries, and I'm going to nerd out for a second. Y'all, there's a
Love it.
library journal, which we did not know existed before this journey, but it's the journal that helps libraries decide what books to put in the library. I was like, that makes so much sense. I never really thought about it. We had the opportunity, everybody does, to get with your book either a star or no star. Like it, that's it. And your star is that the book is deemed to be an essential read and should be in most libraries around the country. And the book got a star because it is a mental health toolkit to help everyone. We even have like kid-friendly icons throughout the book and try to explain things in ways that if you're reading it as like a parental figure to go, oh, my kiddo deals with this type of anxiety. Oh, here's a technique I might try with them, rather than trying to explain like do some diaphragmatic breathing, and we call it taking deep breaths, but you also can call it cookie breathing, right? Like taking this information and demystifying it, de-jargoning it to be really useful.
Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful what you all have been able to do. I love libraries too. Like the smell of a good library
Mm.
book, is like so good. It brings me back to my college days. I haven't been in a library in a long time. That's on the list, maybe for this weekend. Thank you so much for sharing that. Can you tell us what some of your coaching has helped clients overcome over the years in particular? Like, do you tend to work with business owners or career driven women or both, high achievers? A lot of us listeners are type A, perfectionist, highly sensitive women. So
Mm.
we tend to fall in that like small micro range of the world, but we know that we need support. And that's why I was so excited to bring you on.
Yeah, yeah. I help all types of professional women. There's no one that I exclude. My past history is that I worked in family medicine in primary care for a decade. And so I do tend to have a lot of clients that are in the medical space. I also work with psychologists, like other mental health clinicians, but that's not exclusionary. You can work in any profession. The the way that I work in my therapy. And so here's a something for listeners to think about. And this is not like a big commercial, but this is just like a demystifying thing. And I will make a very quick side note as I share this. I have a joint YouTube channel with another amazing colleague, Dr. Stacey Gedian, where we do short, like 15-minute videos to demystify. What we call it is we undercomplicate stuff. It's called undercomplicating stuff. And one of the topics is just what I'm going to say is I work with some individuals doing therapy and I work with some doing coaching. And there's a distinct difference between those. And I have a really thoughtful conversation, like a goodness of fit when I start to work with women to say, where do you see yourself? What kind of going through what they might get out of either modality, like is it therapy, is it coaching, what that might look like as we work together, and then they decide what's the best fit. But I'm not going to do both with one person. There's like a clear boundary that I keep that we're doing therapy. Great. We're doing coaching. Great. We're not doing both. There's a ton of amazing therapists and a ton of amazing coaches that like, I know that person, I can help them or they can find and get plugged in with, if I'm seeing them for therapy, a coach or vice versa. And so if you have questions about, well, what's the difference? That's where I alluded to the YouTube channel where we have some great videos of literally what's the difference between therapy and coaching. And also another one on what's the difference between mentoring, coaching, and consulting. Because a lot of times people come to coaching and they want more of like a consulting or a mentoring feel. They want that person to tell them what to do. And true coaching is asking open-ended questions in an empathetic, supportive way, helping that coachee gain insights themselves rather than being like, well, you need to do this, that, and the other. So there's a lot of a nuance there. So I will see anybody, any professional woman for basically any reason. A lot of the people that I work with are thinking about career shifts. They're thinking about their communication, whether that's as a leader or just like in their roles. And they're thinking about advocating for themselves. They're thinking about goals and values. They're also thinking about like how do they navigate feeling professionally gaslit. I've worked with some really remarkable women where I'm listening to them and I'm just like, yeah, this is gaslighting. Like you're being gaslit so hard. Like, and I'm mindful that there are amazing coaches that come with a ton of different backgrounds. As a psychologist who also does coaching, my ear listens for layers of like, okay, well, I'm thinking about how you're viewing the world, how, your style of approaching things might fit in well with the environment you're talking about. Whereas other coaches might do the same. It just might come at a different angle. But basically, my approach is for women to come as they are, knowing that there's a goal that they're wanting help on. And it's not for me to decide that that goal is a good fit or not. It's for us to have a conversation to see if what I can bring is going to meet your needs. Um, but yeah, I think that again, women face more challenges in trying to balance, the kind of like have it all kind of stuff of like, oh, okay, well, you can be a mom, you can be a wife, you can have a great career, you can run the household, you can be a caregiver to your aging parents, you can do all the things. And it's like, wow, how do you do that? But we sometimes internalize that like gaslighting of like, oh, of course, you can't do it all. Well, there's something wrong with you. And it's like, no, no, that's that's unrealistic. How do you cut yourself some slack to take care of yourself, refill your cup? Because that's not selfish. Like you need to refill the energy that cup, like that you use to take care of others. You need to have some left for you. And I find that having somebody to just sit in the space with you, like that hour of coaching or that hour of therapy, is you taking care of yourself in a way that it's your time. So my goal is to meet you where you're at rather than coming in and being like, I'm going to solve all your problems with this 5-step model. There's some great coaches or people who do that. I very much am a, where are you? What do you need? How can I meet you where you're at? And then let's go on this journey together in a really informed, yes, sometimes evidence-based way to get you where you feel like is the healthiest spot for you to be in.
Yeah, I really appreciate that too, because I do agree in the coaching space nowadays, especially things like TikTok, this awareness that a lot of us have of what we want and our goals can sometimes feel detrimentally large. And
Mm.
it can feel like even gaslighting ourselves, right? Like, why can't we do all of this? Like you were saying, an internal, but then you also go online, like working in social media, and you hear this reiterated over and over again, which can kind of like feed that negative cycle or make us compare ourselves. And
Mm.
I know in my experience too, that stopped me at times, especially in the past, from taking a step forward or going after things that I know are right for me, but might not be right for somebody else. And it can feel really triggering, when other people don't validate you. So it sounds like you're able to do that for your clients, but through their lens and like with the right guidance from your mental stability of therapy, and then also the career side of it, or through the coaching.
Yeah, you strike a thought in me about something that I thought really hard about and dealt with when I was starting my business. So again, I transitioned from working, in the health hospital system kind of care into starting my own business, my private practice. And one of the challenges that I had, and when you said, you see a lot of stuff on social media of people doing all this amazing stuff, and we start to compare ourselves. Two thoughts. One, social comparison is what we call an unhelpful thinking habit. It is a little messenger kind of thought in our brains that steal our motivation. And there's two different types of social comparison, upward social comparison and downward social comparison. So upward social comparison is where we're comparing ourselves to people we think have more than us, who are doing better than us. If you think about the Olympic podium, like the gold, silver, bronze, there's research that shows gold is the happiest, like the gold medalist. Silver is not the next happiest. It's bronze because bronze is doing the other part, the downward social comparison, where they're looking at numbers 4 through 10 and going, I made it on the podium. I got a medal. This is amazing. And Silver is doing that upward social comparison. They're going, oh, gold, I was so close. I was almost there. Oh, they're better than me. And they feel less than because of it. So, Caitlin, I think it's a fantastic point. And my first thought here of like, identify when you're falling into these traps of comparing yourself to other people. Because the heart of what I encourage people when they notice they're in that pattern is compare yourself to you. So if you are an Olympic medalist, say you're a swimmer, if you, as you're training over the years to build up your ability to maybe get a medal or even just make it to the Olympics, right? If you every time you look up after a race, you're just going, oh, I wasn't first, and you're comparing yourself to others, you're going to feel demotivated. But if you're comparing yourself to you, going, oh, I shaved off 5 seconds, I shaved off a second and a half, I shaved off zero point 0.2 seconds, like that's motivating. And we ebb and flow. So you're not always shaving off time, you're not always making perfect progress, but that's a place to focus. The other thought I want to share and then send it back to you is when I was thinking about my business and doing some of that social comparison, I was like, well, somebody else already sort of talks about unhelpful thoughts. There's other people do coaching or, other people work with women. And a really fantastic human said to me, no one can say what you have to say in the way that you can say it. So even if somebody else out there is doing something in a similar space to you, I mean, maybe that's good. It tells you there's a market, right? They're not you. They're not bringing your experience. They're not bringing your thoughts. They're not bringing your style. They're not bringing your insights. Like, no one can say what you have to say in the way that you can say it.
So beautiful. It really is so true because even in my business, right? Like again, being in social media and marketing, there's so many people that offer, same or similar types of services, I would say. And it does change depending on when we get on the call with someone. Like we just had this reflected back to us recently that we listen, to what people actually
Mhm.
are concerned about instead of just trying to provide the service. So it is all about that differentiation. I feel, as being a business owner myself, but also seeing my clients. Thank you
Mhm.
so much, Julie. This has been so amazing. Is there anything else that you want to share with us, or maybe some offers where we can get your book if we do want to purchase it? And then, of course, all of your links we'll have in the show notes below, too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if people want to learn more about me, drjulieradico.com. So it's just my name. So drjulieradico.com. And you can find links to the book. You can find links to the YouTube page. I've got like free handouts on the site, also blogs. That is where I would send people. The thing I'd like to leave everyone with is one of my favorite quotes, because I also think about when we are trying to build business, we're trying to take care of ourselves, we're trying to do things, you're going to make a mistake. You're going to sink time and energy and just do things that you're like, oh man, I could have done that differently. And catch if you're shoulding on yourself. So don't should all over yourself because that's another unhelpful thinking habit. But my favorite quote is a Stephen Sondheim quote. And and this is what I'll leave with you all to think about, carry with you if it touches you in the same way that it does for me. The choice may have been mistaken. The choosing was not. Keep moving on.
So beautiful. What a great quote. Thank you so much, Julie. This has been so great.
Thank you.